Yo, what's going on, guys? So I've been playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I have some opinions that I wanted to share with you. Mostly my first impressions, and if you guys are on the fence about buying this game, maybe this will inform your decision a little bit better or help you if you're still on the fence about buying the game or not, or checking it out or not. If it's, I know for a lot of people, it's a matter of, do I want to spend the time with this game? Do I want to spend the money? Everybody's different. So hopefully this will help you. Initially, I was definitely going to buy it and play it because when it was announced, it was vague enough that I could see it having a lot of potential. And it's also going to be my first Assassin's Creed game because I'd never played any of the previous ones before. So with the setting in Japan, I was pretty stoked about it. But then, some gameplay got leaked, I guess, I think it was the beginning of spring. I don't know when it was. But, yeah. And then I was watching the video that, I forget the name, but there's a channel that it's a couple of Japanese, it's like a literal couple of Japanese gamers that hyper analyzed the game, and they were pointing out a bunch of inaccuracies and inconsistencies, and that coupled with the fact that the gameplay looked pretty bad, in pretty bad shape at least. I don't know how early it was in development, but and then obviously the delay came, and so the release date got pushed back from November to February, and then again to March. So all of that, I was like, this game is not going to be any good, so definitely not going to buy it. And so that's where I was. And then yesterday I saw one of the things I'm not going to lie. I always like a good deal. So I saw that the pre-order gave you access to the first DLC when that comes out. And that seems to be about 10 plus hours of content. So I was just like, if I end up liking it, that's going to be a good deal. So might as well grab it. And so I was debating on whether or not I was going to get it, and I was talking to a couple of friends who definitely were going to buy it or had already pre-ordered, and I was like, you know what, let's just pull the trigger. So with a few hours before the game released, I pulled the trigger, and then I downloaded it and I started playing it at 9 p.m. Actually, it finished downloading exactly at 9 p.m., which was pretty funny. But anyway, yeah, let's just cut to the chase. So, first impressions, I want to say that obviously the first thing that I compare it to is Ghost of Tsushima. Quality-wise, it does feel like, as you can see here, the facial animations are not that different, from Ghost. But this is also a PS5 release, and Ghost is a PS4. So, I don't know. It's also like, I've been playing Stellar Blade, and I don't know what those Korean, developers are doing, but their quality is just insane. Like, if you played Lies of P or Stellar Blade, their level of quality, the level of polish in those games is just insane. And it just blows my mind that these developers that are known for making portable games or whatever, for games for cell phones, they're just knocking it out of the park with the console games. So, and on their first try too. So these studios like freaking Ubisoft, who've been doing console forever, and they're like, look at this. Like, it bugs me actually that this lady, she's a pretty important character. Like, below her chin, it looks like she's got necrotic skin. I don't know. It's so bad. But I mean, at least, the lip sync is good with the Japanese. That was one of the things that I noticed when they did add lip sync in Japanese for Ghost. It was barely like you could barely connect the lip sync to the actual dialogue. It was pretty minimal. It was basically just moving the mouth. It wasn't really syncing with the actual words that you like, the phonetics of what you were seeing on or hearing from the game. So it's just details about the facial animations that are just they just seem not as good. And yeah, especially I think it's just the fact that I'm fresh off of doing another playthrough of Stellar Blade, and then there's just that level of polish. But the world, as you can see, is pretty good. You know, the level of detail for the landscapes and nature and everything, it's pretty good. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna just bash it for the facial animations, which are, I know, you know, a lot of studios, it's tricky. You know, I think it involves just dumping a lot of resources in that, and you know, for a game of this size, I think they obviously have to compromise on certain things. But yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing that I noticed is the animations are not terrible, but I think I read somewhere that they're not doing any mocap, or they didn't do any mocap for this, which if that's the case, that would explain why it feels a little choppy, like at certain times. Certain portions of animations, they just feel, yeah, just a little choppy. That's the best way that I could describe it. And so here we're going to go into a little bit of combat. The combat is not terrible. You know, the responsiveness is good. I'm playing on, what is it called? Expert, which is the hardest difficulty on release, and it's, you know, it's pretty manageable. I'm a pretty average gamer, and I wasn't having any trouble. And the reason that I picked Expert is because I saw some other videos saying that, you know, content creators who had been playing the game for X amount of hours, they were saying that stealth is noticeably more realistic if you play on Expert, which I do agree. You know, in Ghost, one of my biggest pet peeves about the stealth is how it's very, it ruins the immersion really, because as long as you're above enemies, like if you're just above some on like a rooftop, you're basically invisible. You could be like right in front of them and you're basically invisible as long as you're above them. And here they actually, you know, as long as they have line of sight, they will spot you and start trying to throw shit at you or just engage, and they won't stop looking for you, which I do like that for immersion. I think it's really good. Also, other things that I noticed about stealth was it just seems more fleshed out. And again, this could be just the fact that I'm not like an Assassin's Creed. I'm like it's my first time playing Assassin's Creed, and maybe those elements have been there since, you know, before, but it just seems more fleshed out. Like, you know, there's opportunities for you to hide inside of things like chests and other, you know, places where you can, you know, on a pinch, just be out of sight real quickly. And the fact that you can carry dead bodies and just kind of tuck them away somewhere so that they're not, you know, alerting other enemies nearby. I think that's pretty cool. I did see that there's a technique that you can unlock where you can breathe underwater with the reed. And it's just like, it seems, and this is pretty early. I've only played like 3 hours so far. And a lot of that has been, you know, just cutscenes. Because in the beginning, there's a lot of cutscenes. And that's another thing that I wanted to comment on. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much about the story. You know, it's just, I guess pretty much every new game, because again, you know, going back to Stellar Blade, the story wasn't engaging for me in the beginning just because of some of the performances. They just kind of, I couldn't connect with, especially Adam, one of the main characters. And so that made me kind of be apathetic. Well, not really, just I didn't really care about this story, but it's actually pretty good. And planning on writing a review for Stellar Blade, but the story is good, but it's not as engaging from the get go, you know. But this, I was actually surprised that I have I've noticed that the pacing is really good, and even though there's a lot of cutscenes in the beginning, and I think a lot of us just kind of developed some form of ADD just because, you know, we're always looking for like that. Look at that. That guy just immediately noticed me, and which is realistic. And if this had been Ghost, I would have been invisible just because I'm above him. But that I thought was really cool. But anyway, so yeah, the story is actually pretty good, and I've heard some criticism, you know, about the story, more like the performances. I think people were saying that Naue, her delivery is not as good, and that kind of affects engagement for the story in English. But I've been playing Japanese, and I mean, maybe it does help that I can't speak Japanese. So, but to me, just based on the emotions that are conveyed in language, you know, the tone and what you can see, like the way that it matches what you see on screen, I think it's pretty good. Like I said, I don't know the nuance to give you more, you know, better informed opinion, but so far I think the story works for me, and it's been engaging, and I've actually been I haven't felt like I want to just click out of cutscenes and then just like skip things. I've actually been really engaged and paying attention, and so that was unexpected because I thought I was going to be mostly disengaged from the story, just based on, you know, other games that I've played where even Ghost, like honestly, I feel like the story in Ghost is okay, but for me, if I want to play a game that has really good story, I'm thinking Last of Us type, and if it's not like that, I'm not going to be as engaged. I'm just going to enjoy the game for the gameplay. But yeah, so that was another thing that was a pleasant surprise. Like I said, the pacing so far it's felt really good, and the characters are really likable. Like, yeah, you start with Yasuke's point of view, and then you switch to Naue's, and then you kind of stay with Naue. I think you have to unlock Yasuke later on, but I'm pretty early still, so I'm still mostly with Naue, and I think I'm gonna stay with Naue for the most part. But one thing that I wanted to say is that from the gameplay that I had seen, Yasuke didn't seem like it was gonna be that fun, just because it seems like these games, obviously, you know, with the name, they're going to cater to the whole assassin, shinobi fantasy, and Naue pretty much embodies that. And Yasuke is being, you know, with the fact that he's just a tank, and what I had seen where he's just, you know, he would just like run and just plow through doors and shit, and it just seems like it didn't really fit that, but it actually felt surprisingly good to play with him. Just the little that I did play with him in the beginning of the game, so I'm actually stoked to play more with Yasuke. And what else I wanted to talk about? Yeah, I did talk about difficulty. I think for most people, it's going to be fine if you play, you know, normal. I've been feeling like expert seems to be pretty. I feel like I would say closer to normal in most games. If it does feel like difficulty is pretty lenient here. The parkour has been fun so far. It's just sometimes I've had a couple of instances where I didn't feel like it was doing what I wanted, but for the most part, it's felt pretty good and responsive. I wish that it had a jump button, but the only way that you can jump is when you're in the middle of parkour. You can't. There's not like a dedicated jump button. And so right here, I'm showing the skill trees, right? So I think you have 4 or 5 unlocked from the beginning, and then you can unlock maybe 2 or 3 more. And then you have. I really do like the progression system. You have these knowledge points that you have a couple of activities that you know like shrines and then these meditation things. I forget the name, but the meditations are cool because they're like memories. So you go back into a memory and then you complete whatever the task is, the quest. It's like a mini quest, and you complete the memory and then you come back and you get a knowledge point. And so with those, you unlock more skills. And then the skills themselves you unlock by doing other activities and then just gaining XP, I think, just playing the game. And this is the hideout, your hub. And I did notice that quality-wise, as you can see, my frame rate drops. I think it's like around 30, maybe like between 30 and 40. But yeah, so that was one thing that was kind of a bummer inside, but I think it's just because of the whole like build your own base kind of thing. So I think maybe I'm pretty sure that has to do with why it's so slow around this area. But yeah, the world, it seems pretty, I don't know, pretty well designed. Like you can see, I love the wind, just the way that it moves, all the foliage, and yeah, it feels nice. It feels nice to just take it all in and then enjoy the visuals of Japan. It's yeah, so far really liking it. Another thing that I was thinking about, speaking of just Japanese culture, I guess, is the music so far has been very like minimalistic, but it's gotten the job done for me. One thing that I did notice is that there was one scene where they maybe 2 scenes or 2 parts of the game where they had moments where they kind of break away from the more traditional Japanese instruments and they incorporate more modern instruments. Like one of them, it's not like they fully switch into like a modern thing, but it just incorporates. So it still stays with like Japanese themed and melodies and language when it is something that I think one of them had lyrics. But yeah, one of the themes that I heard during a fight had some electric guitar, which I felt like it was tastefully done. So it wasn't jarring or anything, but I think it was it's something worth pointing out that you're going to see that. And I did see somebody else comment on some like Yasuke scenes having some hip hop, which that might be jarring. Who knows? I guess I'll see when I get to that part what I think. But yeah, overall, I think that's the main things, the main things that I wanted to cover. Overall, I would say if you're waiting for Ghost of Yotei and you're wanting to play something that's similar and kind of scratches that itch, I think this is definitely a game for you. So far, I've really been enjoying it. Just every point that I made before, the story has been engaging, the characters are likable. I really like Naoe's dad, and then there's a couple other characters that you meet pretty early on that kind of take care of Naoe. Without spoiling too much, they're really likable, both of them. And I think one of them is actually, the Japanese voice sounds like a character in Ghost, so that was kind of a cool surprise if it is. I think it was the musician guy, the guy that gave you the mythical tales. What was his name? Yamato, I think. But yeah, so far, also like the outfits have been cool. I did notice that there are some outfits that look, unrealistic. Like there was one that I saw with Yasuke where you have, I think both of them get a version of that outfit where you have like like bones, like like you're a skeleton kind of, and then the skull, like the mask has like a skull or something, and that kind of, I don't know, I feel like it breaks immersion. I really like how Ghost did it. Like you have more uh what do you I don't know what you might calling I don't know what you might call them, but you have outfits that look not realistic for Japan in that time period, and just like supernatural looking, if you will. But those are all to be found in Legends, right? So and that fits that world. So I don't know how I feel about supernatural looking outfits in the base game here, but clearly they're doing their own thing, and it's all optional, so you don't have to. And they do have transmog, which is cool. So it kind of gives you more flexibility that way. If it's your cup of tea, I personally don't think that I'm going to be using those, even if they have cool like bonuses or effects. I don't think I'm going to be wearing those, but it's cool for whoever enjoys them. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's any other points that I wanted to make, but overall, I say that this is definitely better than I expected, and I'm already feeling, like I think I'm gonna get the platinum for this. I mean, I could change my mind, but just it's gotten a pretty good start for me, and so I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, and to anybody that follows my channel and wanted to know if this is worth checking out. I will say, if I compare this to Rise of the Ronin, this is leaps and bounds. 'Cause, I mean, I didn't play that whole game, but I did play the demo, and I was just like, the story didn't do it for me. The animations didn't do it for me. I know that the combat has more depth, from talking about the combat with some friends that have actually finished that game and like put significant amount of hours into it. And but it's just the animations, they just don't do it for me. So I think this is a better game if you're looking for something like Ghost to kind of wait until we get Ghost of Yote or any news, or until we get to play that game, which is probably not going to be until late summer, maybe fall, depending on when GTA 6 releases. I don't know. We'll see. But definitely recommend this. I didn't think that I was going to like it, let alone recommend it. So, yeah, check it out. If you're on the fence, this gets my stamp of approval for the time being, unless I change my mind, but I don't think I'm gonna. So anyway, thank you guys for checking this out, and peace out.